Alright guys, so in this course we're going to be using both local and remote versions of MongoDB. So when we're ready for deployment, we're going to want our database hosted elsewhere, but I do want to show you how to get it set up locally. Now I'm on Windows. If you're on Linux or Mac, the steps may be a bit different, so you may just want to do a search on installing for those platforms. Alright, now let's talk a little bit about MongoDB and what it is. It's called a NoSQL database, and it's very different than a relational database like MySQL or Oracle or Postgres or something like that. It doesn't use tables. It uses something called collections. It's also schemaless on the database level. Okay, so when you create, like, let's say a MySQL database, you have to go in either through the shell or through something like phpMyAdmin, and you have to manually set up all your tables, your fields, your field types. You have to define if that field type is going to be a string or a date or an integer. Well, with Mongo, you don't have to do any of that. You just hook it up to your application and you go from there. Now we're going to be using something called Mongoose, which is a module for Node.js. It's also an object relational mapper, and it's just a way to interact with our database. And we can actually create schemas from within Mongoose. Okay, so instead of setting a schema on the database level like we would with something like MySQL, we can set the schema in the application level. Okay, and this makes it much more scalable. Okay, that's another great feature about MongoDB and NoSQL in general, is they're very scalable. All right, so let's go ahead and get started here. This is mongodb.com. I'm just going to go ahead and click the download button up here, and we're going to go down to, let's see, this looks like it's changed a little bit. We want the community server, and I'm on Windows. It should have the correct version selected, and I'm going to click download. Alright, I also have a video called MongoDB in 30 minutes on YouTube, which you may want to check out as well, where we actually go into the shell and we look at some basic commands and stuff like that. Alright, and most of this stuff, if I didn't explain something well enough in this course, chances are on my YouTube channel you're going to find something that is going to be more basic and go over it a little more. Okay, this course is meant to be kind of on an intermediate level, more so than an absolute beginner. All right, so let's go ahead and open that now that it's done downloading, and we're going to run it. Just a simple installer. We're going to click next, and when it asks us the setup type, I'm going to actually click custom, because by default it's going to get put in program files, MongoDB, server 3.4, and I don't want that. I just want to put it right in my C drive. So I'm going to go, whoops, didn't mean to do that. I'm going to go to my local C drive, and we're going to create a new folder here called MongoDB, and we're going to select that as our install folder. Okay, very simple. So let's click OK, let's click next and install. Alright, so that's all set. Let's go ahead and click finish, and now we're going to close this up. Now Mongo is installed, but there's still some steps that we need to take. Alright, so what I'm going to do is open up my file explorer, and we're going to go, let's see, we're going to navigate to that folder in my C drive, so or wherever you installed MongoDB just now. We're going to go to that folder, and you'll see that there's a bin folder that has the actual Mongo exe, also the mongod.exe. What we're going to do is create alongside of this bin folder a folder called data. All right, and then inside the data folder, we're going to create a folder called db. All right, in addition to the data folder, we want to create a folder called log. And then inside log, we're going to create a new file, and we're going to call this mongo.log. Okay, so now what we want to do is we need to open up the command line in this bin folder, but we don't want to use git bash because for some reason this doesn't work with git bash. I can't run the mongod program. All right, because basically we just want to run this mongod right here with a bunch of different flags. So what I'm going to do is just use the standard Windows command prompt. I'll go ahead and say cmd, and we want to make sure that you run it as administrator, okay, or it's not going to work. And let me just make this a little smaller, and then I'm just going to navigate to this bin folder right here, okay, which is C drive mongodb bin. So let's cd to the C drive, and we'll go to mongodb/bin. All right, and from here we're going to run mongod. Okay, I'm going to type this really slow because it's a lot and I don't want to mess anything up. So we want to type in a bunch of flags. So dash dash, first one's going to be directory per db. Okay, next one we want to define the data path. So we want to do dash dash db path, and then we want to define wherever you created this right here, this data db. So mine's in C drive /mongodb /data/db. All right, then we want to define our log path. So dash dash log path, and that's going to be C drive mongodb/log, and then we want to specify that mongo.log file that we created. All right, and then we just want to add dash dash log append so that all the logs append each other. We also want to add the dash dash rest flag, and then finally the dash dash install flag, which will let us install it as a service. All right, so let me just make this bigger here. Well, I guess I can't show you guys the whole thing. But yeah, make sure that, you know what, let me change the font here. Let's see, font, we'll say 28. All right. So make sure that what you type in matches this exactly. All right, so let's go ahead and click enter. All right, so now what we want to do is we want to start the MongoDB service, and we can do that with net start MongoDB like that. And there we go. The MongoDB service is starting, and it started successfully. It's now all set. We have Mongo installed. If we were to type in Mongo inside this bin directory, that opens up the shell. And we can say like show databases and all that stuff. Now, if you want to continue on learning about how to work in the shell, I would suggest the MongoDB in 30 minutes video on YouTube, but we're not going to get into this just now. Okay, we will work with it later on though. So I'm going to Control C to get out of this, and we're going to close that up. So MongoDB is now installed locally. So in the next video, we're going to go ahead and we're going to set up an MLab account so that we can create a remote MongoDB database.